Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is good to be with you today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's good to see you today. Welcome to the Liz Wheeler Show. We are 5 days until the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump. 5 days. It still doesn't seem real to me. It still seems surreal. A little housekeeping before we get started on the show today, and I have some photos I got to show you guys today. The looters out in California, the ones that are stealing out of the mansions that are getting burned down by the fires. You should see the mugshots of the looters. They tell us just a little bit about California policy and how it's impacting, well, not just impacting, how it's harming the people of California. I'm going to show you that in a second. But next Monday, on Inauguration Day, President Trump will be sworn in at noon. He will then immediately after his swearing in, he will give a speech. You and I, we're going to go live immediately after Trump is sworn in. So go ahead and put that on your calendar now. Set your alarm on your phone so that you remember to tune in. We're going to watch live what's going on, talk about, everything that's happening in the inauguration. There's actually a ton of inauguration news today that we're going to talk about a little later in the show. So make sure you stick around for that because some unexpected individuals are going to be seated with President Trump on the riser during his swearing in. So I can't wait to watch it. I think it's going to be great. Like I said, that's Monday. Immediately following Trump swearing in and his speech, we will be going live. And I hope that you will join us. I think that you will. All right. Out in California, we have these raging wildfires that are burning down just an innumerable number of houses. This is not just an inevitable force of nature. Wildfires, of course, do happen. They are part of nature. But the reason that they're so destructive out in California is a direct result of political policy. This is something that you and I should be repeating constantly because the left is trying to gaslight us. They're trying to say, it's just climate change. This is what happens when Republicans don't want to turn our country into a socialist republic in order to combat climate change. They are denying the reality of what's happening. The reality, of course, is that California Governor Gavin Newsom, we have a video of some pretty weird things that he's doing too. I'm going to show you that in a minute. California Governor Gavin Newsom has made a deliberate political decision not to take care of the forests in California. He's not taken care of brush. He's not cleared that away. It's essentially like laying a campfire. He's building all these sticks and brush. Think about what happens if you drop a match into that. Of course, it's just going to go up in flames. He knows that that's a problem. He's refused to take care of it. He also is allowed water reservoirs to be emptied in California instead of having water in the fire hydrants like fire hydrants are intended to be used for. He's allowed that water to be ushered out into the Pacific Ocean. This is a deliberate decision that he actually spent money on. He's spent $500 million to destroy actually 4 different dams in California, all because he wanted to preserve the smelt fish. So the California fires are a deliberate result of Democrats' political policy in California, but it gets worse than that. So once these fires had caused all of these California residents to evacuate California, of course what happens is criminals come in. Criminals come in and start looting these wealthy mansions in California that are being burned down because it is the wealthiest houses in California that are being burned down now. That's why you see so many celebrities that are losing their homes. Mel Gibson was on Joe Rogan and he said literally when he was recording the episode, he walked into the studio with Joe Rogan and he just had this kind of weird feeling while he was filming and he walked out to the news that his house had burned down while he was in studio with Joe Rogan. Did you guys see the Mel Gibson video of him on Joe Rogan talking about ivermectin? If you have not seen that, go watch it now. Emergencies don't wait either, whether it's the wildfires that we're seeing in California or hurricanes in the Southeast or another global health crisis. Having the right resources matters. That's why All Family Pharmacy offers over 200 different medications and bundled emergency packages to ensure that you are ready for anything. At the heart of this effort is the Make America Healthy Again movement, a call to take control of your health and prepare for the unexpected. And if you find yourself in a pinch, All Family Pharmacy has got you covered with overnight delivery. That's care and convenience when you need it most. Go check out allfamilypharma.com/Liz. And because you're part of this movement, use code Liz10 at checkout for an exclusive discount. Again, that's allfamilypharma.com/Liz, code Liz10. Don't wait for the next crisis to strike. Be proactive, be prepared, and join us in making America healthy again. Your health is your responsibility. Let All Family Pharmacy help you take charge of it today. And Mel Gibson is not the only one. He's probably the one who's taking it the best. He said, well, I guess I've been relieved of the burden of my stuff, which is probably the most positive way that you can look at this. But the criminals that are in California have moved into these houses, not as residents, but they've moved in to steal the stuff. They've moved in to try to take anything valuable from the people who have been forced to flee their homes. But here's the interesting part. Look at who these looters are. Before we actually bring the picture up, who do you think they're going to be? Do you think they're going to be residents of California? Do you think they're going to be American citizens? Or do you think that they're going to look like this? Now we can bring it up. Look at the mugshots of these individuals who were arrested in the process of trying to loot some of these homes. These are not American citizens that we know of. Maybe we'll find out that they are, but they're a result of the open borders policy that the Democrats, including California Governor Gavin Newsom, has implemented in that state. He lets people into the country, and then he doesn't crack down on crime. Remember, is it Proposition 47 in California actually legalizes robbery and burglary? If you as a criminal go into a store, you smash the window, you go into a store, or you walk into a celebrity mansion and you take $950 worth of stuff or less. So anything from $1 to $950. So that could be a purse, that could be a pair of earrings, that could be a picture, that could be an iPhone, that could be a laptop, that could be sneakers, anything up to $950 in value. And you're not going to be prosecuted for that in the state of California. Because California specifically passed Proposition 47 that says, yeah, we're not going to prosecute you if you as long as your crime, as long as what you've taken from someone else, as long as the property that you've stolen from someone else is worth $950 or less, you're not going to face any criminal penalties for this. So Gavin Newsom first legalized theft in the state of California. And then because of his open borders policy, California is famously a sanctuary state. So, I mean, all you have to do is go to San Diego. I used to live in San Diego. It's entirely been transformed by the thousands upon thousands of illegal aliens who have been dumped in that city. And now what are they doing? They're going into people's homes and they're committing quote unquote legal theft. And look at them. This is why I say what's happening in California right now is a direct result of Democrat policies. And we shouldn't let the Democrats forget this. And we shouldn't let our neighbors and our friends and people that we know that voted for Democrats, we shouldn't let people forget this. Because here's the thing. I think it's a stupid decision to vote for a Democrat. And I know that sounds harsh, but once someone who has voted for a Democrat has been personally harmed by the political policies that Democrats impose on them, I actually don't want to sit here and laugh at that person. I don't want to sit here and say, well, you're getting what you deserve. I don't want to sit here and be like, that's what you voted for. I want to take that moment and say, do you see what has happened as a result of that Democrat politician? Are you beginning to see the light? Because if so, please come stand next to us. Join us on this side. I want to extend grace to those people, not being soft. I don't want to say, well, it doesn't matter that we voted Democrats in. But what we sit here on the Liz Wheeler Show and do every day, what you do and what I do, aren't we trying to convince people and persuade people by presenting them with facts and evidence and logical arguments and just stating reality? If that's what we're trying to do, then this is an opportunity to say to the people in California, even the celebrities who voted for the Democrats, join us, be part of our team, because this didn't have to happen. Your house didn't have to be burned down. Your stuff didn't have to be stolen. Your governor didn't have to be Gavin Newsom. Your politicians didn't have to ignore your safety. This was not inevitable, and it didn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be anymore if you are courageous enough to speak out. I cannot wait to say goodbye to Joe Biden. We're 5 days away now. Goodbye to an open border. Goodbye to disastrous foreign policy. Bye-bye to Bidenflation. But just because Joe Biden himself is getting out of DC doesn't mean that those swamp creatures that he's leaving behind aren't still looking to take control of us by taking control of our money with their new so-called digital dollar. They always use euphemisms for their most frightening control techniques. This is why it has never been more important than to take control over your wealth. You got to call the only precious metal dealer that I trust, American Hartford Gold. American Hartford Gold is a wonderful company. They support content like this that's committed to bringing you the truth. If you tell them that I sent you, They'll give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first order. So call them right now. Click the link in the description of this episode or call 866-996-5172. That's 866-996-5172. Or text Liz to 998899. If you diversify your wealth into physical gold and silver, the global elitists cannot control you. The phone number is 866-996-5172 or text Liz to 998899. And I think, by the way, that there are some celebrities. Khloe Kardashian is one. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Khloe Kardashian is one who seems like she might be starting to speak out against Democrats. Before we get to that, though, I want to show you this map. So wildfires do happen. They are part of natural disasters. They happen. Oftentimes in California, they are the result of political policy. There's homeless encampments, and that's where fires are started. Or in the case of these fires, it seems to me that arsonists have played a big role in this. Look at this arson map, or not arson map. Look at this map that was posted by DC Drano. This is a geographical depiction of where the worst fires occurred in the state of California. Now, what do you notice about this map? There's the Palisades fire. There's the Sunset fire. There's the Eaton fire. There's the Hearst fire. There's the Lydia fire. What do you notice about these? Well, these are in somewhat random locations. They're not connected to each other. It's not like the fire started in one spot and moved its way down. They're separate events. And so what does that tell us? It tells us that would be an awfully big coincidence that all of these different fires were started at the same time as a result of just nature. Well, of course, they weren't started just by nature. We know this for a fact. We've seen the law enforcement in California have arrested, of course, an illegal alien. That should surprise no one. Have arrested an illegal alien with a blowtorch in at least one of these areas. An illegal alien who has now been charged with arson. Let's maha and buy some masa. It looks like RFK Jr. is going to get into HHS. His hearing hasn't happened yet, but I think he has the votes. And I cannot wait. The question, of course, is do you think he's going to bring back tallow fries at McDonald's? Well, we'll see about that. My bet is on yes, but for now, I would like to introduce a new sponsor to my show, Masa Chips. Give them a warm welcome. Welcome to the Liz Wheeler Show family. Masa Chips are free of seed oils. Masa has only 3 ingredients: organic, nixtamalized corn, grass-fed and finished beef tallow, and Redmond sea salt. Now, this product is important to me because I am a salty fried chip addict, and yet I don't want to eat seed oils. Well, Masa Chips, no seed oils, no pesticides, no fake ingredients, no toxins. In fact, interesting fun fact, all chips and fries and most fried foods used to be cooked in tallow until the 80s and 90s when corporations switched to seed oils in order to save costs, to profit themselves. And then to convince the public that this was a good idea, they funded studies claiming seed oils were healthy. Yeah, right. Tallow is not only healthier, it tastes incredible. My husband loves these chips. My sister was staying at my place while I was out of town and she ate all of them that I had on my counter. Let's maha. Go buy some masa. I encourage you to check out Masa Chips at masachips.com. Use my promo code Liz Wheeler for a discount. That's masachips.com, promo code Liz Wheeler. Offer good on first-time orders only. And now you might be wondering, why are these individuals actually being charged now? In Gavin Newsom's California, people typically aren't charged with crimes. Well, something interesting happened in LA. You remember the prosecutor in Los Angeles? His name was Gascon, and he was a Soros-funded prosecutor who did nothing, right? He just permitted crimes to be committed. It was simply terrible. George Gascon faced a recall election because he was, a Marxist. I don't even want to say essentially a Marxist. He was a Marxist funded by Soros, and he was permitting crimes. He was not doing his job. And a new prosecutor has taken his place. And this new prosecutor styles himself as a centrist or an independent, and he is hammering on arsonists. He's hammering looters. His name is Nate Hochman. And I don't think he's a centrist. I don't think he's an independent. I think he's a Republican. I think he's a Republican because he once ran for attorney general in California as a Republican, and he lost because he was a Republican. So then when he ran for prosecutor of Los Angeles, he said, I'm a centrist. I'm an independent, because that's more palatable to those on the left to be able to say, okay, Democrats didn't work for us, but we can't switch to a Republican. Well, maybe they're comfortable switching to a centrist or an independent like Nate Hochman. Keep an eye on this guy. This is one of those individuals, one of those politicians that is going to have a future. If he can turn around the crime rates in LA County, if he can hold some of these criminals that Gavin Newsom has invited into our country and permitted to commit these crimes, if he can hold those people accountable and it changes, this guy's going to have a political future. He is going to have a political future. The political future of Gavin Newsom, however, this shouldn't even be a question anymore. Do we have this video of Gavin Newsom? He's talking about the fires, but his body language in this conversation is worth analyzing. Tim, do we have this video? Because let's go ahead and play. Watch how Newsom twitches, and this is very unnatural. I mean, this is a result of I would say nothing.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues.
Take a look at this.
I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
Okay, I don't care what he's saying. He's pretending to protect people from speculators, but he didn't protect people from the wildfires. So I literally don't care what comes out of his mouth. But what was this? What was this little dance? Is that what you do when you're a serious politician talking about a tragedy? No, that's what your body does if you're twitching out on something. What's he tweaking out on? Gavin Newsom's political career should be over. It should have been over after COVID and those draconian lockdowns, but it should be over. And I have hope. You guys know that I'm not a cynic. I'm a skeptic, and I am skeptical of everything. But being skeptical of everything is different than being cynical, because cynics reject everything. Skeptics question everything. I question everything. I don't reject everything. And I'm hopeful. This is why I'm hopeful. Both Khloe Kardashian and the owner of the LA Times, not exactly a conservative, either of them, but particularly the owner of the LA Times, are bashing Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Okay, my husband and I made a big decision. We just switched from health insurance. We ditched our health insurance and switched to Crowd Health, and it is so amazing. Crowd Health is not health insurance. It's a better way to pay for healthcare through crowdfunding. And the idea came as a result of our modern healthcare system being such a headache, a disaster, corrupt, awful. It costs just $175 for an individual per month, or $575 for a family of 4 or more. You can compare that to how much you're paying right now for monthly health insurance premiums. And you get access to a community of people who are willing to help you in the event of an emergency. That means access to telemedicine visits, discounted prescriptions, and so much more. And that's all without doctors' networks getting in the way. And of course, you'll join the crowd, a group of members just like you, like me, who want to help pay for each other's unexpected medical events. Let Crowd Health help with your healthcare needs. Get started today for just $99 per month for your first 3 months. Go to joincrowdhealth.com. Use promo code Liz. Crowd Health is not insurance. I call it assurance. Learn more at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com, promo code Liz. Khloe Kardashian posted, how many followers does she have on Instagram, Tim? Like, probably close to 100 million. She posted a story on her Instagram account. It's funny, I asked him that question, and like he would follow Khloe Kardashian on Instagram, LOL. But probably close to 100 million. I think that's a fair guess. Bashing Karen Bass on her Instagram story. 300 million. 300 million followers. That's how many people follow Khloe Kardashian. And she publicly, so this isn't exactly like a burner account or a side comment that she made at some private event. This is as public can be. A bigger platform than really almost anybody else in the world. And she bashed the Democrat mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. The owner of the LA Times said endorsing Karen Bass was a mistake. So the takeaway from this is the fires are a direct result of Democrat policy. It didn't have to be this way. And people, if you live in California, you deserve better than this. You deserve better than this. This didn't have to be this way. And the second takeaway is we're seeing something new happen in our country. It is now okay to criticize Democrat politicians, even if you are not just a Republican. Obviously, you and I criticize Democrat politicians, but criticizing Democrats is a sacred cow among the left, in Hollywood, celebrities. But now it seems like all of a sudden it's okay. And that is going to change our country if this sacred cow is rejected. And I think it is. Okay. I forgot yesterday on the show when we were talking about Pete Hegseth to play what I consider to be one of the most important clips when he was talking about COVID justice, accountability for those of us who have been harmed by the COVID vaccine, the COVID mask mandates, the COVID lockdowns. We haven't heard any, to my knowledge, promises of accountability except Pete Hegseth yesterday. We're going to talk about that in a second. But also the inauguration next Monday. Again, we are going to go live here on the Liz Wheeler Show directly after Trump's swearing in. He's going to be sworn in at 12 noon. And then he's going to make his speech directly after. As soon as he concludes his speech, as soon as he concludes the swearing in, we're going to go live to talk about everything that's happening. Because let me tell you, they're going to hit the ground running. By the time he has been sworn in, within hours, we're going to see some of those executive orders coming down. So we want to be on top of that. There's also going to be some attendees that might surprise you on the riser with Trump at the inauguration. Not just someone who bought a ticket and is seated in the back, but someone who is a guest of honor, a VIP, someone who Trump wants near him during his swearing in. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show, so make sure you stick around for that. Okay, I totally forgot to talk about this yesterday, and it's not only an important topic to me, I know it's an important topic to you. This is one of the first topics that I feel that you and I bonded over because there were so few people in our country. I think it's, 10, 12% of people said no to the COVID vax. That is a very small number of people. And a lot of people who did get the COVID vax didn't want it. They were threatened. They were coerced. They felt like they had to get it. Otherwise, the Biden administration was threatening to fire them. There's been no accountability for, the Faucis and the Birxes and the Cuomos and the Gavin Newsoms who forced this vaccine on people. And Pete Hegseth actually addressed this for the first time. I've never heard another politician at his level talk about justice for those who were faced discrimination because they chose not to be vaccinated. But Pete Hegseth, during his Senate confirmation hearing yesterday, the first of President Trump's cabinet level nominees to undergo questioning in the United States Senate. We think he has the votes. We think he's going to get through. Joni Ernst said that she would support him. That was pretty much the one senator that I don't want to say that his confirmation was hinging on, but if he won her, he's going to get through. Well, during questioning yesterday, Pete Hegseth addressed the military service members who chose not to get the COVID vaccine, even though it was mandated by the military. And as a result, they were either other than honorably discharged or essentially fired. They lost their jobs, and some of them faced penalties. And this is what Pete Hegseth said to those people. Take a listen.
How many other patriots, how many other people of conscience? We haven't even talked about COVID and the tens of thousands of service members who were kicked out because of an experimental vaccine. In President Trump's Defense Department, they will be apologized to. They will be reinstituted with pay and rank. Things like focusing on extremism, Senator, have created a climate inside our ranks that feel political when it hasn't ever been political. Those are the types of things that are going to change. And Senator Sullivan, you mentioned that study. After a whole study was held, extremism working group study, 100 extremists were identified in the ranks of 3 million. And most of those were gang-related. So it was a made-up boogeyman to begin with.
Finally, justice for facing discrimination, being fired, having your rank stripped, being other than honorably discharged. Finally, justice for those who were wrong and those who did the wronging. Thank you, Pete Hegseth. I cannot wait for the day that he is sworn in as Secretary of the Department of Defense, because I have not heard, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, if I've missed someone, I have not heard any other politician with the power to hold accountable those who just terrorized us over COVID promise to hold those people accountable. They will be apologized to, Pete Hegseth said, reinstated with pay and rank. That may be the most important moment of the entire Pete Hegseth hearing yesterday. Thank goodness he is going to be confirmed. It's just a matter now of when that will be. Okay, so the city of Chicago should be quaking in their boots in the lead up to President Trump's inauguration. This makes me very happy to say. You remember a couple weeks ago on the show, we talked about Tom Homan. Tom Homan is President Trump's border czar, and he went to Chicago. Tom Homan went to Chicago, and he spoke at an event. And at this event, he said, "Chicago, we're coming for you." Now, what he meant when he said that is that Chicago is a sanctuary city, and Tom Homan is as President Trump's border czar, is going to be conducting mass deportations. He will be at the helm of that effort. And he was talking specifically to the politicians in Chicago who have shielded illegal aliens, those who have entered our country illegally, have shielded these illegal aliens from the deportation that they deserve, the deportation that they should be facing. And Tom Homan said any politician in the city of Chicago who obstructs justice being the deportation of these illegal aliens, these criminals who are in our country, that person, that politician will also, he's like, I'm fine. I'd be happy to throw you in jail too, if that's what it takes. Well, the city of Chicago, quaking in their boots. Now they're 5 days until President Trump is sworn into office and this mass deportation comes knocking at their door. The Chicago City Council is taking action. The City Council has, or at least, let me rephrase this, 2 members of the City Council have proposed a rolling back of the sanctuary law. Now, the sanctuary law, to be very specific, prohibits Chicago law enforcement officials from cooperating with federal immigration officials when there is a detainer request. So, for example, if a illegal alien is arrested in the city of Chicago for committing a crime, and that person is identified by ICE as someone who is supposed to be deported, the common sense thing that would happen is the city of Chicago law enforcement would give that illegal alien to ICE. ICE would deport that criminal either before they've been charged or after they've served their sentence, depending on what the crime would be. But this law in Chicago prohibits law enforcement, police, from cooperating with ICE, which of course allows illegal aliens to commit crimes in our country and then be released back onto the streets, which hurts American citizens. So Alderman Raymond Lopez of the 15th Ward of Chicago and Alderman Silvana Tabarez of the 23rd Ward in Chicago I really like this. I like when people find loopholes. They are going to use a parliamentary maneuver, and they're going to force the city council as a whole to vote on a proposal that the two of them actually introduced over a year ago, back in September of 2023. They introduced this proposal that would roll back sanctuary city protections, but they didn't even get a committee hearing, much less a vote from the entire city council. Well, now they're going to use, I don't want to call it trickery because it's perfectly legal. It's actually incredibly smart and strategic to use this parliamentary maneuver. And they're going to force the entire city council on record. And this, by the way, is what I think this should happen at city council level, at state legislature level, and at the federal level in the United States Congress. The more that we can get our representatives on record voting for things, the more that we're going to be able to hold them accountable for things. So, for example, the Chicago City Council doesn't want to go on record voting for this because they don't want you to go up to them and say, how could you possibly vote down a proposal that would take this illegal alien who committed burglary or assault or rape or murder, whatever the crime may be, and protects that illegal alien who's in our country illegally instead of sending him back where he belongs? Well, city council members don't want to face that, so they don't want it to come to a vote. But now it's going to. Now it is going to. It would reverse an amendment that was from, I believe, January of 2021 that prohibited these Chicago police officers from cooperating with federal immigration agents. So the mayor of the city of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, said, he's not in support of this. He said back in November that he will prohibit Chicago police, or continue to prohibit them, from helping ICE officials deport. He called them Chicagoans, but they're not. They're illegal aliens. They're not even Americans during the Trump administration. Johnson says, we will not bend. We will not break. Our values remain strong and firm. But my question, and maybe you should, if you live in Chicago, you should send an email to Mayor Johnson, call him up, visit his office, and ask him, what values are those? Are those values American values, or are those values in protecting the criminals who aren't even in our country legally in the first place? You'll remember, of course, that illegal immigration hurts Black Chicagoans the most. So get on the phone, use your voice. You know how powerful your voice is. Every time you have used that voice to lobby our elected officials, it makes a difference. Remember when Chip Roy was on the show about a month ago? This was right before Christmas, and I said, how annoying is it when we call your office? Does it make a difference in how members of Congress vote? And he kind of laughed. He was like laughed uncomfortably. And he goes, yeah, it's annoying. It makes a difference. People don't like that. Do it. If that's our lever to make changes, then that's what we should do. So call the city council members of Chicago, tag them on X, tag them on your story on Instagram, email their office, blow up their phone lines, and make sure that they know that we're watching them. We're watching to see how they vote on this upcoming proposal. Okay. Inauguration updates. 5 days. 5 days till President Trump is inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. Here are the updates. On the riser, you can picture it, right? Picture Trump's first inauguration in 2016. It's up there. It's cold. Everyone's in coats. Melania's wearing her iconic Jackie Kennedy blue with her classic hairstyle. You can picture exactly what this inauguration looks like. And think about who's sitting behind the president when he is sworn into office. First, it's, the incoming first lady, the vice president, and the second lady. Then it's the president's family. And then behind the president is usually political leaders who are the highest ranking political leaders, and then political leaders who are in the president's party. But then there are special guests that the president has invited to attend. And these special guests sit on the riser with the president because the president wants the world to know that these are people that I want to be here with me. It's a signal to the world. So who's going to be sitting with President Trump on Monday? On the riser on Monday, Elon Musk will be there. Mark Zuckerberg will be there. And Jeff Bezos will be there. Zuckerberg, of course, is the founder of Meta, of Facebook, and he's now the owner of Instagram as well. Jeff Bezos is the founder and owner of Amazon. Elon Musk, of course, I don't want to call him the secretary of Doge, but he's the secretary of Doge and the owner of X and SpaceX and Tesla and like 50 other companies that he runs on a daily basis. These guys are going to be sitting with President Trump. These guys, Bezos and Zuckerberg, aren't even Republicans. Or are they? Or are they? The takeaway from this story is not just that it's super interesting what message is Trump trying to send by having these three guys on the riser with him. The takeaway here is don't be so cynical. We cannot be so cynical and skeptical that we are unwilling to build new coalitions. If someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who I think you could make an argument, I've made this argument before, that his censorship regime at Facebook and the Zuckerbox operation that he ran, especially in Wisconsin, had an enormous impact on the outcome of the 2020 election. He was a big part of rigging that election, and I think it's terrible. I think it's awful. I think it's evil. But he seems to have changed his mind on that. He seems to be seeing the light to a certain extent. When he was on Joe Rogan, for example, he was talking about how awful it was when Biden administration officials were calling him, screaming at his employees to censor, posts about side effects of the COVID vax. And he said, we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to be bossed around by the US government. And then he's not quite as red-pilled as you are. He still says, I think it's a good thing that people took the COVID vax. And you probably saw the clip of Joe Rogan just smacking him down about how stupid the COVID vax is. He's not quite to where you are, but he's getting there. And if he's getting there, if they've shown one indication that they're beginning to see the light, we shouldn't mock them for everything, every topic on which they have not yet seen the light. We should invite them. We should say, yeah, come over here. Come with us. Stand with us. We agree with you on that topic. We want you to be on our side. We want to win them over. We want to persuade them. We want to convince them. So long as we are not sacrificing our principles and our values, we're not compromising with them. As long as they're moving to the right, they don't have to be fully here yet for us to say, yeah, be part of our club. Come with us. Come with us. That's what we're seeing. That's the message that Trump is sending. It started with Elon Musk and RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, this dream team that Trump built during his campaign. It's moving now to Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and really powerful people that aren't traditional conservatives. But don't be so cynical and skeptical that we refuse to build new coalitions. As long as we don't compromise our values and our stances, and we're just inviting them to join us, we are at the dawn of a new era. We are at the dawn of a new era, my friends. So shortly after the swearing in, shortly after President Trump's speech, President Donald Trump is preparing more than 100 executive orders starting day one of his new White House. We're going to talk about that extensively next week as they roll out, because we need to be prepared, right? The left is going to counter narrative. They're going to lie. They're going to gaslight people. They're going to fearmonger. They're going to use all their propaganda arms to try to make it sound like Trump is a dictator and an authoritarian. But we're going to be vigilant, you and I, And we are going to make sure that we understand exactly what the Trump administration is doing, so that we can counter narrative the lies that they are surely going to face. Okay. A couple of funny stories. Well, this one I guess is funny. Trump says that one of the things that he's going to do after he takes office is he's going to create the external revenue service. So right now we have the internal revenue service. And he says, why do we only have an agency that collects money from American citizens? How come we don't have an agency that's dedicated to making sure that we collect money from those who are taking advantage of us abroad? And you have to wonder if he said this at first as a joke, like internal revenue service. We should have an external revenue service to collect, tariffs and foreign revenue. And then after he said that kind of off the cuff, he's like, actually, that's a pretty good idea. We should do that. External revenue service coming up. I, for one, would like if the bureaucrats at the IRS were transferred to the ERS and focused on those taking advantage of us abroad. RFK is going to be the second most difficult Trump cabinet official to confirm, in my opinion, because think about what he faces. He faces $1 billion would be the understatement of the year. He faces pharma and big food. Big pharma and big food are against RFK. So you can bet that they are right now, big pharma and big food are in the ear of every senator, Republican and Democrat in the United States Senate, pressuring them, coercing them, trying to pay them off, trying to twist their arm into voting no on RFK. And I pray that they're not successful. A lot of Republican senators are even compromised by big pharma. So again, use your voice, reach out to your senator now in advance of the hearing, because that's when big pharma is telling them, don't vote for RFK. So you get in their other ear and say, yeah, do vote for RFK. But over 100 detransitioners, that's young people who fell prey to the transgender ideology and underwent either social transition, chemical transition or surgical transition, and then regretted it and detransitioned. Over 100 detransitioners and advocates signed a letter backing RFK Jr. for HHS because they say he's going to listen to them. He's going to listen to what their experience was. He's going to listen to how they were abused. He's going to listen to what their experience is, how much damage has been done to their body. And they back RFK Jr. I think this is huge and powerful because especially these young women, Khloe Kardashian is one of them, who we've talked to before. She's a wonderful advocate for these detransitioners. If you ignore detransitioners, if you ignore these young women who've been taken advantage of, who've fallen prey to the gender cult, then you cannot also claim that you are pro-woman. You cannot claim that you are standing up for the marginalized. You are simply an evil pharma lobbyist who is willing to impose a Marxist agenda on children for your own political gain. And that, my friends, is evil. Joe Biden is firebombing his way out. He's trying to make Donald Trump as ineffective as possible. So Joe Biden is, think of him walking out of the White House and just like chucking grenades on his way out. He wants President Trump to be stymied. He wants President Trump to have to play cleanup on his way out. He wants to stop President Trump from doing everything that you and I voted for President Trump to do. A couple of these things. President Biden, or at least when I say President Biden, I almost don't even know how to phrase this because it's not Joe that's making these decisions. It's not Joe that's doing this. Whoever controls Joe Biden, Obama maybe? That's who I personally think it is. The Biden administration, Biden's puppet masters, have removed Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism on his way out the door. Cuba. Fidel Castro's Cuba. They've removed Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism. I hope Trump just walks in on day one and just reverses it. Everything that Biden has done in this past year, just reverses it. Just don't even spend the time analyzing these things. Just reverse everything that Biden has done. Biden also has tried to throw a roadblock in the Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy Doge efforts. As you know, Elon Musk is very much opposed to federal government employees working from home, probably as he should be. I'm not as dogmatically opposed to work from home in general as a general rule, I should say, as Elon Musk is. But for federal government employees, oh yeah, I 100% agree with Elon Musk. If you're not working in office, if you are not working where someone can see what you're doing so that you're not taking advantage of taxpayer money and you're not actively working to harm the administration that you're supposed to be working for, then yeah, you should be fired. Donald Trump and Elon Musk have promised to do that when they get into office. So what does Joe Biden do? Joe Biden tries to cement the stay-at-home allowance for the federal workforce. So undesignates Cuba as a state sponsor of terror, tries to have his swamp creatures, his administrative state, tucked away in their little holes at home where no one can see what they're doing. Why? Well, because he doesn't want the administrative state to be abolished. Chris Wray, by the way, FBI director who, thank goodness, resigned. I mean, he was going to be fired anyway. President Trump has every authority, every right to fire him. Chris Wray, in his farewell address to the FBI, it was kind of a pointless, stupid address, but there was one line in it that I think is really important to note. Chris Wray was talking about the men and women of the FBI, and he said a number. He said 40% of the FBI, he said, I've appointed. 40% of the FBI are Chris Wray minions. And that, I mean, day one, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy should be like, okay, were you hired by Chris Wray? Bang, you're out of it. Bang, you're out of it. This is the direct quote from Chris Wray. As you've heard, I've given the commencement address at every single one of the 39 new agent graduations we've had in my 7.5 years, which means I've had the privilege of personally handing badges and credentials to over 5,700 new agents, more than 40% of those on the job today. They're bringing new talent and resolve to a workforce already full of top-notch professionals. And together, I'm confident they'll continue to find new ways to tackle the threats we're up against. Oh, the threats we're up against? And what might those threats that we're up against be, Chris Wray? This means that Chris Wray has swamp creatures buried in the FBI. I cannot wait for Kash Patel to get in charge of that. I cannot wait. The Biden administration has also used a loophole. They are throwing these grenades all over the place in the federal government, trying to stymie incoming President Donald Trump. The Biden administration has used a loophole to put a Kamala Harris transition aide in Trump's workforce in a position that the Biden administration wants you to think Trump can't fire her from. Now, this is an unethical thing to do. This is not something that an administration, it's called burrowing. It's where you take a political appointee. Now, the political appointees are at the top of the agencies, and political appointees at the top of the agencies are fireable, meaning every administration replaces the Secretary of the Department of Defense, for example. Every new president replaces the secretary level and then a couple of those deputies, the political appointee level. But then below the political appointee level are what's called, the lower levels are called civil servants. And there are civil servant protections, which means that civil servant, these lower level employees at these executive agencies, supposedly can't be fired as easily. Now, you can make the argument, and I would make the argument, that the president is the chief executive. He can do whatever the heck he wants with the executive branch of the government. He can fire and hire and reorganize and do whatever. But historically, the swamp has claimed that they can't be fired if they are at the civil service level, these lower level employees. So what the Biden administration is doing is putting Kamala Harris employees, demoting them just a position or two to put them in the civil service level position so that they're not at the political level, so that theoretically, at least the Biden administration claims that Trump can't fire them. Now, I hope Trump ignores that. I hope he does fire it, but this is called burrowing because they're trying to burrow these politicos in the upper levels of the lower level employees in order to continue the work of the swamp. And it's nasty, nasty, nasty stuff. Okay, I know this happened last week, but I cannot end this show today without talking about this with you, because I have never seen reality TV as good as Jimmy Carter's funeral. And I mean no disrespect to Jimmy Carter. I pray for the repose of his soul. I think he was a terrible president. I don't think that those two things are mutually exclusive. You can pray for someone and hope that they are, pray for the repose of his soul. We'll say that. And also think that he was a terrible, destructive president. But his funeral was 100% overshadowed by the drama of the first 2 rows of attendees at his funeral. And that, of course, would be the current and past presidents of the United States and their spouses. So I hope you guys watched this. If you didn't, I want to show you just a little bit of what went on, because the amount of beef between these people. So we had Bill Clinton. Next to Bill Clinton was Hillary Clinton. Then we had George Bush. Next to George Bush was Laura Bush. Then we had Barack Obama. But next to Barack Obama, where Michelle Obama was supposed to sit, she was absent. She refused to come, because next to where Michelle Obama was supposed to sit, Donald Trump sat. And on the end, next to Donald Trump, was Melania Trump. That was the second row. And then behind that row were some vice presidents. There was Al Gore from the Bill Clinton administration. There was Mike Pence from the first Trump administration, and Karen Pence, his wife, sat next to him. Then in front of those past presidents was the sitting president, the current president, Joe Biden, and Jill Biden, and his vice president, Kamala Harris, and her husband, Doug Emhoff. But watching the interaction between every single iteration of these people, I mean, you couldn't have created a Real Housewives reunion where more beefs were more evident to more people all at the same time. So what happened here? We had Barack Obama already seated, and George Bush walked up. Barack Obama stood up as if to greet him. And what did George Bush do? Look at that. It's a belly tap. Talk about there was someone on X who said George Bush is the realest dude that we've ever had as president. No. That's not what that is. That is a sign of disrespect. That was a dismissive gesture that George Bush knew that he could get away with because he's taller and he's bigger than Barack Obama is. George Bush, at the same time that he dissed Barack Obama, completely ignored President Trump. He walked by him and he didn't say a thing to him. Didn't say a thing. And then you have, when President Trump and Melania Trump walk in, Al Gore stands up and shakes President Trump's hand, which is the gentlemanly thing to do. Mike Pence stands up and shakes President Trump's hand, which is, I mean, the tension there between Pence and Trump is, I mean, I'm glued to the television watching this. And then Karen Pence, sitting next to Mike Pence, does not stand up. She completely shuns President Trump. Like, Karen Pence, who do you think you are? Completely shuns President Trump. So then we have Kamala Harris. After the past presidents have been seated, we have Kamala Harris, the sitting vice president, walk in. What does she do? She looks at that row just with this dour, sour expression on her face. Look at that. At first, she makes her husband shimmy past her because she doesn't want to sit directly in front of President Trump. But she shuns him too. She says nothing to him. She says nothing to Barack Obama. Nothing. Not even a nod. Not even an acknowledgement. And then Jill Biden and Joe Biden walk up. And what happens? Not a glance is exchanged between Kamala Harris and Jill Biden. Kamala Harris moves her stuff off the seat. And then peeks back at President Trump and Barack Obama, because look at that. Would you look at that? Obama's just laughing back there with Hitler. The people on the left, they never thought that Trump was Hitler. They were just trying to get you to think that Trump was Hitler. But do you think that Barack Obama would be authentically chuckling at whatever quip President Trump had offered him if he actually thought that Trump was Hitler? No, he would not. Barack Obama stopped talking, by the way, when Kamala Harris did her little peep over the shoulder, her little eavesdropping, and then she sneered her way back looking forward. You can't make this stuff up. Was there a single person there who didn't have beef with each other? But big picture, if you kind of zoom out on this, think about the political dynasties that were all sitting together. You have the Clinton dynasty, Bill and Hillary. You have the Bush dynasty, George Bush and Laura Bush. You have Obama, and you could call it the Obama-Biden dynasty because Obama is essentially controlling Joe Biden. And then you have who they hoped to pass it on to, Kamala Harris. President Trump defeated every single controlling political dynasty that has dominated U.S. presidential politics for the last quarter of a century. He beat them all. He's just sitting there. How you doing? How you doing there, Barry? Just sitting there, dominating. Cannot make this up. Hollywood should take note, because I have never seen any movie about anything from high school drama to gang drama. Nothing has ever compared to how compelling this reality TV is. Ever compared. I know this was last week, but we had to cover this. We had to talk about this because It was a sight to behold, an absolute sight to behold. All right, guys, remember Monday, Trump is being sworn in as the 47th president of the United States at noon, 12 noon. Then he will speak. And right after that, we're going to go live here on the Liz Wheeler Show. So please join us. I know you will. We're going to have a lot to cover because the Trump administration is going to hit the ground running. And we are part of that. You are part of that. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is the Liz Wheeler Show.